So if you want to just take a second before we get ramped up to make sure you've got access to that. If you don't worry, we'll guide you in the breakout sessions. The way this works is we'll have Laura talk to us for 15 or 20 minutes to answer some questions. And then we'll go through an exercise where we divide into small groups to go a little deeper and see how we can take the things that she's suggesting to us and apply them to our causes and the things we care about. I'll just say that What's Next East Kentucky is a network here in Eastern Kentucky that has been around for about 4 years, and we build relationships among communities so that they can work together and whether to collaborate or trade ideas, and also with resource providers who can bring skills and sometimes other sorts of resources to the table to help us all make a greater impact on the economic development of our region. So that's just the brief spotlight. We're really glad you're with us today. I'm now going to introduce Ruthie Caldwell with Vision Granted, one of our regional partners, and she will tell you a little bit more about Laura and what we're going to do here today.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Robert. So yeah, I'm Ruthie Caldwell with Vision Granted, and I met Laura just a few months ago. I was just kind of Googling for someone to help with fundraising and marketing communications, and she was one of the first that popped up, and I just fell in love with her website, and we got to talking, and she is just an incredible resource for us. She has a lot of background in change making, in community revitalization, community development. She's excellent with fundraising strategies. She offers trainings. She does marketing communications and storytelling, which I think storytelling is so important with helping to share what our organizations do and gain funds and get out there and improve our organizations. So yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce Laura. So Laura is from Do Good Consulting, and she's their chief change maker. And she's actually a former elected city council member out there. So she's doing great things out in Illinois. And she's also the creative manager for Recreate Home and Garden. So she has her own businesses, and she loves cats and recipes and bacon. I love these pictures she sent of her, and she's just a wonderful person who's trying to help people do good things. So we're really excited to have her today to kind of go through these top 10 things that we can all do for free to help our organizations. So Laura, is there anything else you'd like to do to introduce yourself?
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the little pop-up navigation bar at the bottom. Can you all hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I want to make one clarification, well, two clarifications to Ruthie's introduction, which thank you, Ruthie, for that. One, I actually live in Michigan now. I was on the city council in Urbana when I was living there. I spent 25 years in Central Illinois and all of my adult life up until almost 4 years ago in Illinois. And then I met my husband in a weird freak accident by tripping over a trailer hitch and landing on my face and blacking out. And he rescued me. He found me, passed out, rescued me, and we ended up falling in love and getting married. And he's a Michigan boy, so he lured me up to Michigan pretty easily from Illinois. So I've got 8 years of experience on the city council, which was a wonderful and glorious experience. And I think will add some value to our conversation today, because I know we've got people who are involved in community development and revitalization efforts. And I know we also have at least one elected official representing, hello, mayor. And then I also wanted to clarify that I don't just like bacon, I love bacon. So I just want to make that clear. I even own a bacon outfit, just so it's clear that I love bacon. All right, so with that said, I want to say I am so delighted to be here today to talk with you about these sort of low cost, no cost opportunities for you to really spread your mission and vision. Takes very little time, very little effort. In fact, a lot of these things I think are going to be like duh or aha type moments. But when they're put together, and you can really use tools like this personal action plan that I've created for you, that I hope everyone has an opportunity to have in front of them, either electronically or by paper. To hopefully by the end of today's session, you'll walk away with some really clear and exciting actionables to take whatever it is that you're involved in. And for many of you, you're wearing multiple hats to try to make your little place in Eastern Kentucky more special and more vibrant. So as we jump off, oh, hey, everybody, my toner's low. I don't know if you can see that notification that just popped up. Okay, so this is that personal action plan. We're going to be revisiting this document. It's a personal, private document for you, but we're going to be drawing on some of the things that you come up with in today's session at the end of the session. So please be sure to get out an ink pen or your keypad and type in or write into this because we want to witness some of these things moving forward. Before we actually kick off, I want to kind of pre-apologize. I do have 5 cats. You saw 4 in the picture. And one of them is blind and deaf and has a tendency to yodel typically when I'm doing presentations or webinars. So that'll be Charlie Poodle if you hear him. And I also have an 18-year-old cat that's very needy and he meows extremely loudly when he wants something. So he may join us as well. And then I also have a spunky little kitten that oftentimes likes to jump up here and knock things around. So she may make an appearance as well. They've all given permission to be on camera, by the way, just so you know, you guys. Yeah, all right, Nicole, I'll try to see if I can beckon the yodeling cat and have him make an appearance. All right, so let's dive into this here today. It's a really busy world out there, you guys, and I don't need to really tell you this, but we are being bombarded with messages every day. Research shows that over 600 messages are filling our brains up every single day. So if it feels like it's harder and harder and harder to get your message out, it is. It's really never been harder. And so that really makes it challenging for organizations, governments, or other entities, small businesses, to compete in this really super saturated message heavy world. So what is it that we can do in order to get ahead if our budgets aren't the size of huge corporate conglomerates? Well, not to depress you even more, but research shows also that individuals need to see or hear or listen to something as many as 21 times before they actually absorb what is really being said to them. And so that can be really challenging as well, not only to try to get like your kids to take the garbage out or for your husband to actually hang his coat up or whatever, but this means like your customers or your consumers or your donors need to be hearing things multiple times before we can really get them to start moving in the direction of taking whatever actions it is that you want. That could be donating, it could be purchasing, it could be visiting, etc. So that can be challenging, right? And that goes to, we don't have endless, bottomless budgets. So how do we compete in a market that is just saturated and so very competitive? Well, I found this quote a while back from Facebook. So you take that maybe with a little bit of grain of salt, but I think that the comment in here is very valid. That the public, people share, read, and generally engage more with any type of content when it comes from friends and people they know and trust. So it means that the cadre that's around you, the people who are kind of in your first layer circle, are the ones that can be best deputized to reach out to the next layers of individuals, and those people then can be deputized to reach out to them. So I mean, to me, this boils down to, in a way, it doesn't really matter if you've got a budget. If you've got the power of the people and you get them deputized and ambassadors, give them ambassadorships to promote your cause, that's how you're going to get ahead in the super competitive market. So let's dive in to 10 simple things and teach not just yourselves how to be better, stronger advocates and ambassadors, but to deputize others to assume these roles for whatever causes that you've got. Before we jump into 10 simple things, I just want to give a shout out. I asked for the attendance list today in order to kind of really understand who the audience is here. And it's very diverse. So I'm going to try to do my best job today in speaking to this broad crowd. We've got small business owners, people who represent chambers of commerce. We've got people who serve in board of directors roles. We've got a lot of nonprofit staff members. We've got probably some, well, I know we've got the mayor of Jenkins. I've forgotten his name, I'm sorry. Todd DePriest. And I know we've got people who volunteer copious amounts of times, and then we've got people who also self-identified as ambassadors and advocates already. So I'm going to try to customize what I'm talking about to that really wide audience of people. But I do want to encourage people, we're going to have a lot of time for question and answer conversation and that sort of thing. But if you feel like there's something really pressing you want to ask me during the presentation, I would invite you, since our group is small enough, if you want to unmute yourself and kind of just like poke in, I can either answer it then or let you know that we can adjust that at the end. All right, so let's dive in. What are these 10 magic things that we can be doing? All right, well, number one is simply telling somebody. The very act of just simply speaking up more than you already do about what it is you care about and what it is you love can definitely make a difference. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So you can envision this as just simply like running into somebody at the grocery store and just striking up a conversation and working in something about how, say, for example, Ruthie's little business, I forgot the name of it. I'm sorry, Ruthie. Mr. Tibbs, how Mr. Tibbs is going to be at like the county fair this weekend or something like that. And just dropping that as a mention. For me last night, what this looked like was mentioning two things. One is I've got a friend who runs a catering business, as well as has a side job or side business that sells these really custom, awesome oils and vinegars. And on last night's, I had a Zoom tale with a bunch of my girlfriends from back in Illinois. And I mentioned her business and talked up all of these oils and vinegars that I've been using. And people were really enthralled and asked me to share a link in the Zoom. And I did that. And then this morning I followed up and shared a link to her website to make sure that everybody had access to purchase her items. And I know for a fact, because one of the women wrote back and said, this is what I'm going to be buying for a friend for her birthday next week. Thank you, Laura, for the referral. So that just caused her a new customer. And it was just me just bragging on her a little bit in this Zoom call. So imagine, in the coming week or maybe in the last week, what were some of the missed opportunities in the last week, maybe where you could have maybe dropped a hint about something that you experienced, a great restaurant that you ate at, or a great tourism spot that you visited, or a wonderful business that you shopped at, or a nonprofit organization that you had a great experience with. So think about all those missed opportunities and now parlay that into the future. When can you start infusing just a few more trickles of mention about the things that you care about most? And how can you go even further, like how I dropped a URL into the Zoom link and then followed up with the small group and sent a URL to enable people to find her business and make purchases. So just open your mouth, talk about it more, and you're going to, by doing that, just start spreading the word even more. Number two, have you thought about what your Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter bio says? Does it really represent what you want to have? When's the last time you looked at it? And if something else can fit there, would it be appropriate for you to mention that you're a passionate advocate for the city of Jenkins, for example, or for the Perry County Community Foundation? So dropping those sorts of things in there can grab people's eyes. And anytime somebody sees something like that, that goes to that 21 times that people need to see or hear something. So that can be valuable as one of those touch points. Also, if you haven't in some way customized your email signature, and if you have a program that can also have multiple email signatures, creating one for your cause, like if you're a volunteer for an organization, you could create one saying you're a volunteer for a local environmental organization. But you could also, if you just have a regular email address, you could add something custom onto the end about, say, an upcoming event that you're passionate about. Be sure to visit the upcoming regional fair happening this weekend. The email signature that I created in HubSpot. So if people are looking for a way to make a kind of a fancier email address that include maybe a photo or a logo in there with hot links, HubSpot is a great place to do that for free. All right, number three, engaging on social media platforms. This is one of those duh things, right? Like that, we know we should do this. We probably already do, but being more intentional about liking things and not just appreciating them when they come across our feed. Being more intentional about sharing things that are important to you with others. It could be in a private message, it could be on your wall, making more of an effort to make a comment. All of this helps to drive algorithmic values and can help boost the visibility of this cause, whatever it is. It could be a page of a local organization, nonprofit organization, a local business, whatever. But that can all help boost it and put it in more people's news feeds. More people see it, and all of that can help raise visibility of the things that you're very passionate about. Also, reviews are still very important. This is especially on Facebook, but LinkedIn also has a recommendations area as well. And weighing in there, people, as I mentioned earlier, that people, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I was reading a comment that somebody had just been putting in here. I've been trying to do that with Ron Daly's Buffy posts. Buffy goes viral, hashtag Buffy goes viral. That was from Sandy Curd. So adding the point I was going to make earlier is, like, people trust information that comes from friends and peers. And so if you provide a review or recommendation, that can be very powerful when peers and others see that, because that's going to be much more valuable than any sort of paid advertising that you could purchase. You know, the other thing in this area for number 3 here is empowering people better in order to participate in this. I've seen some really great success with clients who write more specific needs, not just like us on Facebook, but put a section in, say, an e-newsletter that says, here are some very specific ways that you can help us on Facebook. You can like us here, you can review us here, and provide links directly to those areas. Really helps people understand that this is needed and exactly how and where to do that. All right, number 4 is forwarding those emails that you get from the places that you love, whether you're on the email list for a local restaurant or nonprofit organization, or the area communities, or government entities that you live in or around. There's oftentimes things in there that are valuable and should be shared with other people. And email programs, as much as people like to think, oh, I can just have a Facebook page and share stuff there, emails are really still a powerful communication tool. And this is something that if you don't have an e-newsletter, it's something that you should be thinking about implementing. So what I always try to do with the organizations that are most important to me, or the entities, it could be like the email I get from the city that I live in now, is I try to find 1 or 2 people that I can forward that email to, and then I put a personal note at the top that said, the story about fill in the blank really caught my eye and made me think of you. I thought you might like to read this, and just forward it on to them. I did that with my sister last week with an organization that helps moms with toddlers. My sister's got one of those and often has challenges, and this organization helps parents, especially through pandemic, working from home, deal with some of those challenging moments. So I sent that to her. And then also, in our next door neighbors here are very not techie people. And so when I get our city newsletter here, I print it out for them and I bring it over there so that they can also see the news of the city. I want to make sure that people who are not connected can still get that communication. So it's an easy thing that I can do to make sure they're still connected and know what's going on. All right, number 5 is just to show up and be present. The more that you can experience things that are going on in your community, the better of an advocate or an ambassador you're going to be, and be able to talk about those things. Ruthie was mentioning how important storytelling was, and she's absolutely 100% right. Storytelling has never been more important. It's an extraordinarily powerful way to engage audiences. And when you attend things and you're there, you've shown up in person. It could be an event, it could be at a store, it could be a restaurant, it could be something like that. When you have stories and experiences to share, you're going to have a much more vibrant and realistic way of talking about it with people. So that's important. And it's also important when you do that. I recommend, if your organization, your business has bling, right? They've got pens, magnets, brochures, whatever, is to show up and have those with you. Carry them around if you're at a place where the community is going to be gathering. You're going to be running into people who may want this information. So I usually carry like a little satchel, and I have little magnets that I hand out for my business. And I will hand those out to people when I see them. And if there's some sort of community sharing area as well, like a share board or some sort of community resource table, I'll drop materials off there as well. Also, when you're at these events, be sure that that you get connected to your devices, and that you are online and you're tagging and posting and encouraging people to experience it through the lens of the pictures or the video or whatever it is that you're taking, and tag those organizations that are where you're patronizing or showing up or attending, to make sure that they're getting some mention in there as well. So I mentioned shareables, right, and bringing things with and sharing. So I want to remind people how important it is to actually take the materials you have that help promote your business. These are things that you maybe have already paid for, and get them out of your offices, get them out of your closets, get them out of the trunks of your car, and get them out working in the community. How many people that are on this webinar right now kind of might be willing to admit to having that box of like older like t-shirts or brochures or magnets or whatever buried in a closet or trunk or something somewhere? Okay, we got a couple raised hands there. Yeah. So I want to tell you guys a really quick little story. I used to be the executive director of Habitat for Humanity in Champaign-Urbana. And when I first started my job there, our offices were connected to our restore, and I could see out into the restore. And one of the things that dogged me for like the first 3 weeks was watching the shelf of old dusty t-shirts and bumper stickers in the middle of like prime real estate of the store, just get walked by every single day. And so I came up with this idea of pulling it all out of there and putting it near the cash register, running a little messaging campaign saying we're giving away t-shirts and bumper stickers if you show up to the store and spend over 10 bucks. And people came in and they got these t-shirts and they started wearing them around the community. And they put these bumper stickers on their cars and their bikes. And all of a sudden, that bling, that stuff we had spent money on years before I even got there, started to go to work in our community. And it was really important because when I took over for the organization, we were standing on the brink of basically bankruptcy, going out of business. And we basically deputized 100, 200 people out in the community to start wearing these mini billboards, walking around or driving around the community. And it really amplified efforts. So if you've got those t-shirts, you've got those magnets, you've got those pens, whatever else that you have that's promoting the thing or things that you love, dust them off, get them out, and go and make them work for you out in the community. All right, next up is letters to the editor or a city council meeting. So letters to the editor are the second most popular section of the newspaper, and that's including the written and the online edition, and that's second to obituaries. So it's a pretty popular section, people read it. And I will tell you, and I don't know if our attending mayor might like to jump into this, but like that's an area of the paper that elected officials look at. I mean, we refer to that all the time. And it's oftentimes we'll find some of the, the complainers there that, don't like raise taxes and other things that they want to find to kind of poo-poo. But I'll tell you what's refreshing is when all of a sudden somebody's just writing in about something that's awesome or something that they love, and they show that passion in what they're writing. People read that stuff because it's fresh and it's new and it's different. Those are free. I don't know what the dynamics are with media in your region specifically, but in the community where I came from, it was pretty easy to get letters to the editor, especially when they ended up being different and not redundant like topics. So if you love something, write a letter to the editor, have it submitted, and help spread the word that way. The other idea is to attend a city council meeting. And Mayor, I don't know if you might want to mute yourself and tell me if this is true for your community specifically, but we had 5-minute a 5-minute section at the beginning of the meeting was a section at the very beginning of the meeting where people could come and they had 5 minutes to talk about whatever it is that they may want. They just had to sign a little card, they'd get called up, they'd have to speak into a microphone and address the council. So is that something that happens in the city of Jenkins, Mayor?
Well, we have a spot on the agenda for citizens' concerns or comments, so it's open. Anybody wants to come, and we don't limit people unless they get too long-winded, then we send them down. But
yeah, then the gavel comes down. Yeah, so this is a great opportunity. And again, for my community in Urbana, what was great about that is our meetings were televised and people watch that stuff. It's so incredible how many people actually tune in to watch the machinations of local government. It's incredible. And so really when you're making a presentation like this, right, you go to the city, like let's say you represent a nonprofit organization, you want to go and you just want to talk about the latest program that your organization is unveiling. And you bring, say, a client or a consumer or a volunteer to come and help to promote that message. You bring some visuals. You're talking to the camera and the council or the county board or whatever, but you're getting on TV. It's free TV for like 5 minutes or until mayor puts his gavel down. It's great, you guys. And I have seen this work before I even got on council. I used to take advantage of that. And I will tell you, it's actually a huge reason why I was able to get elected, is because people had already seen me coming to meetings talking about, I was involved in environmental issues back then. So they'd already seen me showing up at city council meetings talking about environmental issues. And it made it just that much easier to show up at people's doors and say, now I want to represent you on council. What if you had that power for your organization, your business, your chamber of commerce, whatever you're representing, or even if it's multiple things, show up. If it's every week, every 2 weeks, every month at their meeting, show up with a new topic or a new organization that you're promoting. There's no limits there either. And I'll tell you what, we loved hearing from people who had good news stories. That is when you had our attention. That's when you had the public's attention. Free 5 or so minutes, take advantage of it. It's super, super powerful. All right, number 8, now I just got done saying I was all into the environmental movement. Here I disclose on a slide to say, don't recycle. But what I mean by this is there are organizations who still send out things by paper. It could be a newsletter. It could be an invitation to something. It could be a helpful flyer. Whenever you're done consuming that, don't recycle it. Bring it with you. Hand it over to the neighbors next door. Hand it over to leave it behind at the doctor's office. Post it up on a share board somewhere. Make that piece work for someone else. Bring it out in the community and share it with somebody else. So think about the next time you get your mail and you think of that something, that piece is, one and done. I want you guys to think of that as a everlasting piece instead. Number 9 is blinging it up. So I was talking before about, getting those like dusty t-shirts and bumper stickers and pens, from out of the closet. Well, if you don't have those things, but you do want to have them, unless I think you guys think I'm suggesting that you buy this, I've got a great idea. And that is, find a corporate sponsor that you might be able to partner with to have them underwrite the cost for something like this in exchange for having their logo on your good cause. So let's just say it's tote bags that you want. You could have your logo, your event, whatever it is on there. And then either on the other backside or at the bottom, you could have that business, like a local printing company or local chain grocery store or the Chamber of Commerce or whatever, could help underwrite this. It doesn't cost you a thing. They get advertising through it, and their name is on these materials that get circulated out in the community alongside yours. So think about what might represent your organization best. It could be magnets. It could be like a map of a business area, or for like a Chamber of Commerce, the region that you serve, tote bags, pens, things like that. All right, and then number 10 is, as you are asking and involving other people to take these actions, right, and you're deputizing them and you're creating them as capital A ambassadors for your organization, you're going to find ones that rise to the top, right? The ones who are really getting the job done. Make absolutely certain that you're thanking them and giving them the tools they need to stay and remain engaged, right? Taking some time out to make sure that you're saying thank you and providing them with the tools and the feedback and the opportunities that they need. is only going to allow them to spread that message to even more people and draw more people in. And then that creates another layer or family of deputies and ambassadors for you. So keep that circle growing. So I'll remind you, all of these things that I just talked about are free. They only take a few minutes of time every month or every day. It's basically, a lot of them are just whenever you want to put time into it. So you're really in the driver's seat. But I want to remind you that it's the people who are all around you that can best reach out to the people you want to reach, to attend something, to shop at your store, to donate to your organization, whatever it is. So make use of them and empower them to help you grow the causes that you love the best. So we are going to, now I think we're gonna have about 10 minutes to kind of just open discussion. So I think people will be asked to unmute themselves, but I will kind of turn it back over to our facilitators, lead facilitator, to talk about what the next step is here. We're gonna do some brainstorming and some discussion.
Great. So first, maybe we could just have people ask questions to you, and then we can brainstorm some topics for the breakout rooms. So are there
Sure.
any questions for Laura? I know I got some really good ideas. I already started filling out my 5 things I'm going to take away. So thanks for sending us that great worksheet. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Hey, Laura, it's Robert. And, you know, when you talk about people need to hear something 21 times before it sticks. So when we share messages, let's say in person or in a letter or whatever, but particularly in person, do we need to, one, stay really focused for a period of time? And so we're saying the same thing to the same people. I mean, could 5 of the 21 times be when you reminded it, or is that wearing it out and we need to find other people to carry the message? Or, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
how do we use these channels?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And one thing to point out is, you know, you can't shortcut this and say, well, you know what, I'm just going to create like an e-news blast. I'm going to send it 21 times to my list. You know, that doesn't work. That's cheating, and you're gonna end up with a bunch of unsubscribes there. So don't do that. So Robert, to your point, the more diverse that you can make this, really in almost every regard, the more successful that you're going to be. So if you think about this, and you may have heard the term multi-channel marketing or multi-channel communication, what this really means is that you choose multiple platforms to share your message. So it could be a couple of different social media platforms. It could be Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, could be your e-newsletter. And yes, you could mention it there a couple times. Maybe it's in an e-news blast, maybe it's buried as a little mention in an e-newsletter, and then maybe it shows up as a mention in someone else's e-newsletter. I saw that happen in the city newsletter not long ago. There was a nonprofit that asked the city to promote something. They put it in there, so I saw it there as well. And then maybe you get a billboard donated, or you've got that tote bag that somebody sees walking around town. To your point about the messaging, there's a 2-part answer to that. One is sticking on message really helps to drive that point home. At the same time, any sort of reminder to an individual of even brand, right? Like Do Good Consulting, or, you know, the organization name or your business name, even if it's not like the fact that you have a sale this weekend or a campaign going on or whatever, that can help to reinforce this. And then the third element of diversity is the more types of people that are coming at an individual, kind of reminding them of this. Like if they get an email forwarded to them, or somebody shares with them on Facebook, or they see something come across on Facebook because someone commented on it that they trust and know, that's actually going to carry a little more and sometimes a lot more extra credit, if you will, if this is coming from a friend rather than just say like a paid staff member, or excuse me, specifically like the business owner, right? Like it's our job to kind of promote our own business. But if somebody who's consumed my services says to somebody else, she was wonderful to work with, it was so incredible, the information we got out of her, they're going to take that advice over a little gimmicky magnet that I give them every day. That said, I should still give them the magnet because that will also help. Did that answer your question, Robert?
It does. Thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions for Laura?
I have a couple of questions for the group. I wanted to find out, has anybody actually ever gone and spoken at a community meeting, like a city council meeting or a township board? Dan, it looks like Dan has. Dan, you're a business owner, if I'm not mistaken, is that right? Yep.
Well, I'm director of the Grayson Gallery and also active in the chamber, VP of the chamber. So we have a lot of opportunities there. The city does most of our primary funding, so we touch base with them quite often.
Mhm.
And then the Tourism Commission owns our space, so we make sure we update them. Mindy's head of our Tourism Commission, so together they get tired of seeing us sometimes.
So fresh faces that, well, you're at least getting the 21 messaging concept out there. Yeah, ahead of the game. But to that point too, sometimes when it is some of the same players, seeing fresh faces really kind of changes it up for those of us, who have to sit there every Monday night or every Thursday afternoon or whatever. Anybody else have an experience before, like an elected board with cameras and stuff that they could give like a success story about? Or Mayor Todd, do you remember anything like recently that somebody, came and just like talked about something great going on in the community that sticks in your mind?
Well, not necessarily something great, but one thing I've learned over time is it's harder for people to say no in person than it is over the phone or in the email. So if you're pulling something together and trying to gain support for it, going face to face and talking to them is always a good thing. So, and the council meetings, we need some good news every now and then. Most people that show up has got some kind of issue, which is the big problem in their world, and they want to air it out. So we're there for that, but we like the good news and the projects going on. And one thing back in my mind right now, there are so many good people doing so many good things all over Kentucky, but everybody don't know what they are. And the more you can get it out, the more people you can help, the more people you can serve, and the more people benefit from it. So
I'd like to back up what the mayor just said and add one thing, which is I used to work here in Perry County with the Perry County Wellness Coalition. We were advocating for more opportunities for young people to get outdoors, both during the school day and then beyond the school day on weekends to hike or hunt or just whatever it might be. So when we went to the county government or the city government with any kind of request, we got the young people themselves, middle school and high school, to go make those presentations and requests and to talk to the elected officials. And that seemed to work far better than parents or teachers or anybody, because it's hard, just like the mayor said, it's hard to say no to somebody in person. It's almost impossible to say no to a young person who's stepping up and asking for what they need to get ahead in the world.
That's a great point, Robert. That's a strategy that can work for like volunteers. Like if the organization needs volunteers, is bring a volunteer to ask other people to become volunteers, because it's coming from this place that's different than if you're a staff member whose job it is to recruit volunteers. I hope that, sometime down the road, people can give me some feedback of what happened after your maybe first encounter with a local elected body and speaking out, because I'd love to hear those stories. So if this is on somebody's action list, feel free to reach out to me after you do this and tell me how it went and how you felt and what the results were. Any other questions or comments that anybody had from the presentation? I'd love to have a couple people just unmute to tell me what, like, so far, what their biggest, like, oh yeah, like, why didn't I think of that? I can totally do that. Maybe we can hear from like 3 people with those.
Let me have a confession. And I stay away from Facebook, and probably I shouldn't. And the reason I stay away from Facebook is drama, people getting excited about streets. It's not city streets, but they're state. But anyway, and then there's always somebody chimes in to help our side, and that fires up the other side to say more. And I try to run neutral in that. I'm sitting here thinking I need to do more of this, but I don't know if I need encouragement or tell me it'd be all right. But it's
Yeah, Facebook can be a very slippery slope, especially in the business that you're in, Mayor. I mean, it is, my service in elected duty was years ago. And it would be a really difficult thing to conceive of me, you know, re-entering that in today's climate. And I mean, I can see the stuff that you're talking about, not specifically in your community, but like it does get ugly sometimes. But every once in a while, inserting a breath of fresh air is sort of the toehold that others need to see or hear in order to also feel like there's a semi-safe space, or that there's like a voice of reason or explanation. Sometimes like it's just bringing it back to like, let's just get back into reality. So, you know, think about it. You could do a toe in the shallow end of the pool, right? Like test it out. If it doesn't go well, you can, you know, deactivate your account again, or just shut it off or delete the app or whatever. But you could also ask others in the city to also, you know, if they feel like weighing in as well, help out with things like that. So, but I do feel your pain. I definitely feel your pain. Facebook wasn't like as big of a thing back when I was in office as it is now. So I definitely can appreciate where you're coming from.
I really liked your idea about updating your email signature so that it reflects your passions. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, I thought about it when I first set up my business, or my, you know, my formal one, but I thought about going back and actually modifying it for special issues or special events.
Yep.
And that's a great idea.
Awesome. Once you get that set up, Sandy, feel free to email your current one and your like later one. So I have a side-by-side example. I'd love to see that.
Okay.
What else? What other sort of aha, I can do this? That's low-hanging fruit, but probably will have some pretty hot impact.
Laura?
Dan?
I think I also like the idea of updating, especially a Facebook page, because, you know, with a company page focus, you don't have nearly the flexibility to tag people, do all those things. So I really use my own page. Everybody thought my last name was Grayson Gallery for a long time, and still they reach out to me a little more. But now I think I can probably go ahead and link that, not wait for something that's down in the post or whatever, right on my face page, and those that don't know that will get it a little better. So
Just one of those 21 times somebody needs to see it.
That's a fabulous tip, I think, for our use. So thank you for that.
Awesome, Dan. I'd love to hear that. Do we have time to squeak one more in before we hit the breakout rooms?
Sure, if anybody wants to share. All right, well, we can go ahead and get started with brainstorming some of the breakout rooms. So we'd really love to hear from you all of what you'd like to, what kind of topics you'd like to break out into, because we noticed that there's so many diverse people here with different backgrounds. So basically, we're about to go into probably 3 or 4 different rooms. And so you guys get to propose which room you want to go in. So what it could be based on topic of your background. It could be based on something that we've talked about today, really anything. So are there any specific topics you'd like to go into a room for? You can put it in the chat box, or you can go ahead and just call it out. Would it be helpful for us to just kind of break up into 3 groups based on background of folks that are here? I know, Laura, you said that you looked into a bunch of that and that there were a few different groups.
Yeah, I saw there were sort of 4 areas that popped out for me. Those were people who were involved with and passionate about community development and revitalization efforts, people that are involved in various nonprofit initiatives, that could be as a staff member or board member or volunteer. We definitely have local business representatives here. And then we also have a lot of people that talked about tourism as well. So those were the kind of the 4 thematic areas that I found.
Great. So if you guys are interested in any of those, would you like to go ahead and put in the chat box or raise your hand or just yell it out so we know to make those one of the rooms?
So we had tourism, nonprofit.
small business. Revitalization and tourism.
If we wanted to have 3 groups, would it make sense to combine either tourism with community development, or is there a way to combine any of these that makes sense to the group? Or should there be 4 different groups?
I like what Sabrina puts, revitalization and tourism, because a lot of times people are looking for a downtown that's a destination.
Great idea.
Okay, so community development / revitalization / tourism, and then nonprofit and local business, sounds like.
I like what Nicole put, nonprofit and community engagement.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So name the nonprofit one, nonprofit / community engagement for sure.
So nonprofit, community engagement, revitalization and tourism. And was the last one small business? Is there anybody else interested in local businesses? No. Okay, well then we might just have 2 groups then. So revitalization, tourism, nonprofit, and local business. I guess no one else is interested in local business. So seeing revitalization in tourism and nonprofits. All right, so will there be 2 groups, or what do you think, Laura? Which group should there be?
Yeah, it looks, how many people do we have on here? Let's see if I can get my little navigation bar to show up again. I don't know
There's
what, I
15,
can't.
and it sounds like breaking up into maybe 2 groups, with one the nonprofit community engagement, and then the other one being revitalization and tourism. So
Yeah.
like it. I can go over some really brief Zoom tips while Daniel is working on setting up those 2 breakout rooms for us. So everybody who's using the most up-to-date version of Zoom will be able to see the breakout rooms icon in their toolbar. And then after clicking on that, you'll be able to see the list of breakout rooms. So Daniel, you can go ahead and launch them, and then everybody will see that in their toolbar. If for some reason you don't see it in your toolbar, you can just put in the chat which of those 2 rooms you want to go to, nonprofit community engagement or the revitalization tourism group. So yeah, Daniel is launching those, so you should be able to just click on it in your toolbar. And then you'll click on the blue join button next to the room that you want to join. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions about using the Zoom function? I see some people are zooming away, so that's a good sign. All right, so then you'll have to click the blue join button. See y'all in the breakout rooms.
Welcome back, everyone.
Thanks, Daniel. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah. Sorry, my internet was being a little slow, so I went ahead and turned off my video, but I am still here and still recording.
Oh, great. Well, we had a really good discussion, and it went even further beyond what we learned. So I'm really excited for everything that we talked about and sharing all that.
Really glad to hear that. I did pause while you all were in the breakout room, so there's not just this big gap of just a black screen for like 15 to 20 minutes. But I'm really glad to hear y'all had some lively discussions.
Yeah.
Hey, Laura, you're
All right.
sorry.
All right. Okay. So I got to spend a little bit of time in both of the breakout rooms, and we had some lively ideas or lively conversation and some good ideas that transpired there. But what I really want to do now is kind of get a weigh-in from people on what the very best ideas were. We've got a small group that's left with us now, so I think if we can kind of just do like a around the room thing and have people weigh in on what the best things were that they heard, that they came up with, that would be great. I'll flip it over to Ruthie. What was your big thing?
Great. Well, we actually just had some really good networking going on too, just meeting each other. But some of the big ideas that were shared were like having a letter to the editor. It's not just in print, and that's one of the things that people read the most actually is letter to the editor. And it's nice to have some good news, but also how we could be forwarding that on social media and letting the digital portion go forward too. What were some of the other things that were shared, guys? Y'all can jump in as well.
Well, I'd ask Ruthie about what would be a good way to forward emails when I feel like the information is something that someone else would be interested in. Because I told her I didn't want to feel bossy or like I was telling somebody, well, this is what you need to do. What you need to do is. And she said that she would follow the way that Laura sent her a forwarded email recently. And it simply said, I saw this and thought of you. That way you're thinking about somebody and that makes them feel good. And then they're also getting the information without it seeming pushy or bossy or whatever.
That's awesome. I'd forgotten about that, Ruthie, that I did that a couple weeks ago. Thanks for sharing that as a live example. And that it helps to make, Mindy's idea a little bit more reasonable or accomplishable for her. So that's great.
And since I'm on here too, Laura, I mentioned that how these are so pertinent. We're in the middle of our first ever crowdfunding campaign, and it's just like these were the majority of the tips, the bling, the attending some council meetings or something, maybe with people outside of us. It's made us think of some of our other leaders that we'd say, hey, tell our story yourself. They won't have to be hearing from us again. Mm-hmm. So I realize that this would fit any project you're doing, but right now it's just so timely for us and we appreciate this.
That's great. I love hearing that. Thanks, Dan.
Yay.
So y'all, I'm going to jump in and share what I heard Sabrina McWhorter say. She's up in Carter County, says she knows Dan and Mindy really well. And she's got a blog called eatwildappalachia.com. That's eatwildappalachia.com. And it's about how to gather and forage wild foods that grow out in the environment. And I promised her that I wrote it in my personal action plan that I was going to tell 5 people at least. So I've just fulfilled it. Thank you.
That means you got 16 more to go, right?
There you go.
Yeah, we also had a discussion about just thank you notes and like what's the best way to thank someone. And it really boiled down to the best way is always the handwritten note. And we were trying to think of like more unique ways to do it, but that really is like the most heartwarming. We said maybe also mixing it with bling so they can become brand ambassadors would be good too.
Definitely. Whenever I'm at like the Goodwill or a thrift store, or even, I don't know if you guys have Tuesday mornings where you're at like a little sort of like discount place of mishmash of things, I always go to the thank you note section and find something there. So I've got this collection, like literally in this drawer here, of stickers and thank you notes that I have at the ready. And I challenge myself to at least every other day write 2 thank you notes to somebody that just saying I appreciate them, or something specific that happened to thank them for as well. But yeah, I have a very specific drawer filled with all the stuff that I need to do that. And I try to make myself think very intentionally about who I can do that for whatever random reason. It doesn't have to do with work or anything. And right now, more than ever with the pandemic, that stuff is so meaningful. I like actually that idea of adding that like as a more direct concept in this presentation. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, anybody else from my group want to share something?
Just gonna say, I didn't say this during our group, but I'm gonna share the 10 simple things with our board and our staff. because I think we've talked about a lot of these things. We have a pretty robust social media presence and an e-newsletter, but sometimes my board says, well, I don't know how to help. You guys are the staff is doing a good job. You guys are doing fine. But these things are all things that I think volunteers can plug into. And so I'm going to share the list with them and let them get creative about how to enact some of those tips in the way that they want to. And instead of maybe the way that we're doing it already or the way that we might tell them to do it.
That's great, Nicole. One thing I want to mention to people before too many others peel off is that the very last slide I'm going to share with you gives you an opportunity to win a free hour of my time, which could, for example, Nicole, be used to have me come in and sort of facilitate a conversation with your board around these concepts or anything else that anybody might like to tap my brain for an hour. So, but I'll show you how you can be entered to win that opportunity, and you'll see it fits exactly right in with the message of today. So any other big idea shareables?
Well, I'd just like to add where we're so early on in what we're trying to develop and create our identity, that I definitely see taking the Facebook page and creating one once we come up with a name and all that. And before we roll all that out, sending a letter to the editor to let folks know who we are and where we are and what we're about. So I think that I came away with those two things as a must for us and what we're trying to do.
Perfect. Were there any things that seem out of reach to people, or something that doesn't quite fit and maybe might need a little bit of creative modification to work for you? We could talk through. No? Everything was achievable. Oh, Mindy, you had something?
Yes, Laura, I don't know how comfortable I would be with having my brochures and things with me going to an event or something to hand them out. I just, what can I do to make that a little more comfortable?
Well, I've got a couple suggestions. So is it like, what part of that feels uncomfortable to you? Like the act of just having them like in a purse or bag or something, or the actual act of like leaving them behind the place that you're at?
I guess I wouldn't want to hand them out personally at somebody else's event because I'd feel like I might be taking advantage or.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple of ideas are one. So I've got well, I haven't been using this as much recently because we've been, like not going out as much because of the whole COVID thing, but I have like the classic mom baggie full of my brochures, and they're these little magnet things. I also have temporary tattoos. And so I put those in a little baggie and I have them in my purse. So I kind of just carry them around, and if it comes up, right, like if somebody mentions something or whatever, it seems appropriate, or the tattoos are great because I should actually have one on. So they're great because I can give them to a kid, like I'm still giving like my brand out. It says do good. It's just that do good oval with the green, and it says do good in it. Perfect message for anyone, but it also happens to be my business name, but I can give it to like a kid or something without it being about business, right? So keep them in your purse. Don't necessarily feel like you have to bring them out. The other thing I have is a glove compartment filled with the same. So there's baggies in my husband's car, baggies in my car with my bling in there. And if I happen to need those, I can draw upon those. And then the other thing, Mindy, I would say is if you're not comfortable handing it out and you're having a conversation, like you're at like business A, right? And you want to promote your thing. But you don't want to step on toes, would be get that person's contact information for a number of reasons. One, you want to get them into your email list, right? If you're going to start an e-newsletter. And then two, you're talking about these thank you notes and the power of that. Grab that stack of those thank you notes, write a note and say, it was really wonderful to meet you the other day. You inspired me on a couple of levels. Like the idea you had for this or that was great. I also wanted to share with you our brochure. I didn't have it with me at the time, but I definitely want to make sure it ended up in your hands. I'd love to talk with you again. I hope our paths cross soon. Something like that. So that would be a way of still getting it to that person, but not like infringing on somebody else's like territory, if you will. So I don't know if that's helpful or makes that a little bit more approachable for you.
Yes, absolutely does.
Hey,
Yeah.
Laura, could I just add to Mindy's question? I was in a meeting the other day, and we were talking about we as nonprofits are going to have to stop being so territorial and all that, because we're all trying to do good work. So we have to get over that mindset and know that we're all trying to provide a good service for the folks we serve. So we need to try to get beyond that and know that we ain't trying to step on anyone's toes. We just want to provide a service to some folks that maybe you are or not reaching, but we can all provide the same services to the same group of people, and that's only going to put them in a better position to be successful. So we need to get over it.
The rising tide raises all boats thing is very applicable. And I will also add that just from a trend perspective, and maybe Ruthie, you probably can weigh on this even more than I could, given your background in grant writing, is there's a lot of foundations that are rethinking a lot of things about how they distribute money, everything from United Ways to community foundations to larger foundations. And collaboration, well, equity is a big conversation now, but also collaboration and the idea that we've got to be doing things in new, different and better ways. And this idea of territorialism isn't going to fly for much longer. And the idea that collaboration, like a lot more foundations, I think, are asking for what your collaborative approach is, who are your collaborative partners. So I think you're spot on, Tony. And Ruthie, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that from where you stand as a grant writer.
No, I have felt though that Eastern Kentucky is pretty special and that we do try to support each other more, but no matter what, there's always going to be some competition.
Well, I know we're getting to the end of our time, and we've got a small enough group now that I was going to have people do a Jamboard exercise, but I think we had a good, robust conversation here of some of the best ideas that people are walking away with. So I want to go into I don't know what my slide problem here is. Here we go. I wanted to show you guys what this free consultation opportunity was. So I'm going to be giving away this hour of time. And this is what you need to do. You either need to, or both of these, go on Facebook and Do Good Consulting's Facebook page. And then under the review section, which is in the more menu, which is like the ... menu, share something compelling or meaningful that you learned or took away from today's session. And then your other thing that you could do, or instead, would be to connect with me personally on Facebook. And you see my handles there, and provide a recommendation by sharing, again, something meaningful, compelling that you found out of today's session. And the more specific you can be about, who was saying that they were going to change their signature file and do like a before and after thing. I can't remember who that was on the call, but I think
that was Sandy. I think she had to hop off.
Yeah, Sandy heard, yeah. But something like that, to be able to say, this is going to make a big, it may seem small, but it's going to make a big difference, and then even dropping an image in there could be cool. So so if you do this by Friday at 5 p.m. or so, I'll put names in, literally I'll put names in a hat and pick them out, and I will notify the winner. And then after this presentation, you will be getting these materials, all these materials from me, my contact information. You can reach me. Email is the most reliable way to reach me, but you're always free to call me. I'm not as good with text. I mean, occasionally you'll find me texting, but I will answer Facebook and LinkedIn messages as well. So if you guys have any sort of follow-up questions, or like I was mentioning before too, good news stories. I love the good news stories. So, and then Ruthie, I think you're in charge. You can be talking, or I don't know who's going to be, Jacqueline, talking about the survey that we've got for the session.
Yeah, Jacqueline, go ahead and take it away.
Sure, I just dropped the survey link in the chat, and you guys can click on that and take it whenever you have a few minutes. But it's just a quick 5-question survey and should take less than a couple of minutes. And please do connect with Laura. Laura, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. This has been really great.
Yeah, I was really inspired by everything that people shared, and I'm excited for you. And I'll be hopefully watching. Feel free to invite me to your causes. I love watching organizations kind of implement things. So feel free to stay in touch. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Of course.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye.
Thank you. Nice to connect with everybody.